We were spending 80 to 90% of our time in the bomb shelter. So this is the only shower down in the subway. Right now, my relatives may be hiding in basements, trying to survive. Did the lights just go out? You asked me how we react to the siren. Well, just like that, we go home. This was our teenagers' favorite place. Every evening they'd hang out here. Hi, Mom. I'm begging you to leave. We're already used to it. Most people are staying there because their homes are there. We found the safest place in our flat and set it up. We miss you so much. I miss you too. Hello, my friends. It's not a secret that many people here in Russia think that what is happening in Ukraine is not a matter of their concern. We all understand the reasons for that, so we won't analyze it now. Many people, but not all, because millions of Russians have relatives, friends, and acquaintances in Ukraine. As for Ukraine, there was a poll showing that half the respondents had relatives or friends in Russia. It was in 2011, though. It's clear that the last decade, and especially the last 2 months, have stopped many people from communicating, but yet again, not all. Many Russians and Ukrainians are still chatting, phoning each other, or calling using Skype or Zoom, communicating with each other. And we think it's important to tell you about a few of these people. If somebody thought that Mariupol was located near the front line, that there was no life there, that there were constant air attacks, they're not correct. For the last several years, the city was developing its infrastructure which is now completely destroyed. We were spending 80 to 90% of our time in a bomb shelter. The power is back on. We went back to our flat to do some basic things like to take a shower, brush our teeth, and we were able to boil water there when there was gas. I remember when the gas was turned off, Ina, my wife, turned hysterical and asked, "What are we going to do? How are we going to make food?" There were 200 or 300 people living in our building, and we only had 2 or 3 cooking fires for everyone. And when the branches from the trees growing in our yard were gone, you had to decide whether to make some tea or cook some buckwheat. We put the cooking grills in front of the doors of the bomb shelter because even then there were airstrikes and people were really cautious. They ran to this bomb shelter, but the thing is, nobody could reach it in time. So when they were running, those bombs were exploding somewhere nearby. When I saw the news about the war, I thought that if it had spread all over Ukraine, there would soon be no water or anything else, and I remembered that I had run out of petrol, and I don't know why I did this, but straight away, at 7:10 a.m., I was already sitting in my car, heading to the petrol station. I thought that I was doing something wrong. I thought that my panic was irrational, and buying canisters with petrol was something strange, but those canisters, they saved my wife. They saved her parents. They saved my friends. And they saved me. That was really helpful. You can't even imagine how many people didn't manage to get out of Mariupol just because they didn't have petrol. They had cars, but they didn't have petrol. Some cars were damaged. As I start to tell you all this, it becomes really hard for me. I remember going to the theater square after the 12th of March. Mobile services started to operate near the cathedral, and people knew about that, and they went there, but they weren't able to connect to the internet because the network was really bad. You had to try 10 times to finally reach someone on the phone or send a message, and I was standing there hoping it was safe. When somebody finally gets through, the first message they get is, "We're glad you're alive." We would always greet like, "We're glad you're alive." So if somebody's finally online, everybody's rejoicing. My mom, my brother, and I would often go there to visit our grandmother. When I was between 10 and 15 years old, we'd go there every year. My relatives live there, or live there. I don't know. Maybe they're still alive, hiding in cellars. That's my aunt, my father's aunt, who is the sister of my grandmother. How did you meet Sergei? It was 20 years ago. That's what we calculated. It was summertime, and me, my mother, my brother, we all went to a sanatorium called Azovstan. Seryoja's father worked there, and Seryoja himself was working there for a very long time. He quit 4 or 5 years ago when he became a professional in photography and decided to quit that job. Sergei's photos had always been like this. Before, they were all colorful and beautiful, and every single photo made after the beginning of the war is black and white. This is his flat. When you don't see it with your own eyes, you don't understand clearly. No matter how many times I tell you about it, no matter how many videos you see, I don't wish anyone to experience that. If you observe it yourself, you understand the scale of the tragedy. Take food, for example. We would divide it into portions, like that, and then we saw that we had a very little amount of food left, and we didn't understand how we would survive, and if we continued eating like that, we wouldn't have any food left after 2 days. There was one family with us in the bomb shelter, and there were several generations of them. And with food, it got to the point where they were hiding food from each other. They knew that somebody had some food. This was one family. It's morning. As I've said, we are sleeping in the subway. I'm in my tent right now. Here's our kids' bed. I'll show what we have here. Books, Legos, some toys, an owl. Our emergency backpacks. That's where we store our documents. We always place them nearby. We've also got some hats and warm clothes, purses and documents there. Here in the metro, it's difficult, it's uncomfortable. The lights aren't turned off even at night because people might fall on the rails. But if you set up a tent, if you bring some of your things and a pillow, you can sleep fairly comfortably here. The children are totally isolated. They don't go to kindergarten or to school. Many of them are trying to study online while their teachers are in other cities. There's a place where the kids are being given books. I'll show you the toilet now. I've never thought that I would ever go into that part of the subway, so that's how the only shower in the subway looks like. This thing got broken 3 or 4 times, but people fixed it themselves and didn't ask anybody to do that for them. There's also soap. Actually, the floor is clean, but it's really, really old. The subway was constructed in Soviet times. There's some bottles with water in case the water ends. Someone was taking a shower and forgot their belongings. There's hot water, but it runs out from time to time. That's why taking a shower might be really hard, because you're taking a shower with sometimes hot, sometimes cold water, and sometimes you just freeze. You don't really want to see it if you're very sensitive. This is the toilet itself. As I've already told you, the subway is Soviet. The toilet is really bad. It's being cleaned twice a day. Those who live in the subway organize themselves and divide it into teams. One team cleans the toilet in the morning, the other in the evening. The families take turns cleaning it. It stinks. I can't stand it there anymore. Judging by those tents, you can see whose house has been bombed and whose house hasn't. I went outside and I heard a siren. I'm going back because it's an air siren, an air alert. I won't risk my own life. They sing like that several times a day, and usually after a siren starts, something falls on a building. Everything's covered with glass, and there are missiles everywhere. The city is empty. During the day, several factories and a few private organizations are still working, but this is the brave ones who have well-equipped cellars. Other people aren't working. Life in Kharkiv has literally stopped. The parking lot is empty. Not so long ago, there were many cars here. The streets are also empty. A lot of people have left the city. There are soldiers walking around with guns. I'm really afraid because the sound of a car or a train passing by is really similar to the sound of a flying missile. We've got a new type of evening entertainment. When there's an air alarm, the whole family gathers in the corridor. And we sit there because there are load-bearing walls. There's no bomb shelter nearby. Wait, why are you still talking with me? Go over to the load-bearing wall. I'm not sitting near the window right now. I heard you have a curfew, even for several days. Is that true? Yes. Sometimes we weren't allowed to go outside for 24 hours. That's tough. We're having fun after that, though. Crowded streets, lines of people who were inside for a month. Wait, did the lights just go out? Why did it go back on? It's okay? Did you turn the lights on? This is the light from my monitor. Oh, okay. I was scared to death. It went into sleep mode. Oh my God, Anya. So, do you have any lights on in your building? No. We're not allowed to have them on. The curfew began as we started our dinner. It's already dark outside. We decided to solve the problem like this. We have candles on our table. I think I'll walk around and get to know the new location. I decided to go work out. But where? In a field? I didn't hear you. Where are you going to train? There's a stadium nearby. No way. You're a brave one. When something shitty is happening, you're going to go work out somewhere outside. Who are you going there with? With your boyfriend? Yes. Cool.
Прикольно.
С кем-то хожу. Да. Це одна із моїх меч.
It was one of my dreams to go work out with my boyfriend.
Зі своїм хлопцем на тренажери.
So you were born in Moscow? Yes. How come you have so many relatives in Ukraine? Well, my father grew up in Energodar, and I went there every summer for the holidays when I was a kid. The town of Energodar, it's very important to me. It has a personal significance because here in Moscow, my parents, they didn't treat us well.
Не очень хорошо с нами обращались. Вот. А там была
And there, my grandparents lived.
И они как бы
And
нас
they literally raised us.
Вот.
My grandmother is alone there now, as my grandfather passed away.
И у нее там
And she has some old friends there, but none of her relatives are left, and she's now alone.
И она осталась одна.
I've tried many times to ask her to move here. I tried to convince her to go to Moscow.
Чтобы она
I promised her that I would arrange everything.
к нам сюда в Москву. Я ей там обещала.
I told her
что
everything would be
я
okay.
тебе все устрою. Все будет нормально.
But she didn't want to.
Нет, она сказала,
That's right. She found it pointless because her home is there because she thinks that we don't need her here.
И зачем я вам нужна?
Ну как вы
How are you doing there?
Скучали по
We
тебе.
miss you.
Ну, у вас нормально?
I hope you're okay and healthy.
Да.
Yes.
А тебя не видно.
I can't
пап.
see you.
Ну я не знаю.
I don't know what to do with this computer, Luba. See you tomorrow.
До завтра,
I'll see you
моя
tomorrow, my darling.
хорошая. Слава Богу, что...
Thank God.
Да, да.
Yes, yes, thank God. We finally managed to communicate. I really, really miss you.
Я звоню бабушке.
I called my grandmother. I told her, just don't go outside. Just don't. And she answered, who do you think I am? I need potatoes. I asked her, why would you go outside for potatoes? I'll find someone to bring them to you. But how can I make an adult stay at home? In addition, I'm too far away, and I was panicking. So I called my friends, who are young, they understand what's going on, and I talk with them. And I'm talking with them, and then suddenly I hear an air alarm go off on that end.
Вы спрашивали.
You asked me
Мы реагируем на сирен.
how we react to the air alarm.
Мы идем домой.
Well, just like this, we go
Я
home.
не знаю. Очень многие
Many
люди
people we
сейчас
passed
приходили.
were just doing their routine stuff or just standing outside.
Во дворе, и мы в любом
Anyway, we're going home to close the curtains in case something happens.
чтобы вдруг чего не случилось.
When the alarm goes off, it's really irritating. We survived the night without it, but alarms in the evening, alarms in the morning. Wait, are you going down somewhere? Where would we go? Our building doesn't have a bomb shelter. We only have a cellar, and that's quite far away. So we're just staying in our flat.
Я из Киева,
I'm from Kyiv.
со стороны мамы.
My mother's parents are from Kharkiv.
Со стороны
My
папы
father
из
moved
Чернигова.
from Chernihiv.
Приехала сюда почти 20 лет
20 years ago, I came here and met my husband, and we found out that if we wanted to live together, the only city we could live in was Moscow.
Если мы хотим жить вместе,
So,
это, соответственно, будет
in March of 2002,
в
I
марте
moved here.
2002 года вот я сюда уже и приехала. Мама находится
My mother is in Kyiv,
Отец
my father is
находится
in
в
Kyiv,
Киеве,
my brother is in Kyiv,
находится в Киеве,
and my
дочь
stepfather is
находится
in
в
Kyiv.
Киеве.
It's very hard for me to count how many of my friends are now in Ukraine because they all live in different places. Some of my friends live in Odessa, some of them live in Dnipro. My friends who are in Kyiv write me the same message every day. We're still alive. It's extremely touching because I don't have the mental resources to ask it constantly by myself, so I thank them for doing it.
Вот, и спасибо им большое, что они это делают. Я не знаю,
It's hard to say, but maybe I'm one of the few people in my group of friends who's living a rather normal life right now.
нормально в том
A
плане,
normal life means that I try to do some routine stuff.
я ем, да,
I
то есть
cook
это
myself some tasty food. I try to support myself because I know I need to work and I need to support others. And if I can't support myself, I won't be able to support anybody else.
никого.
Сейчас мы находимся.
We are now near a shopping mall called Fabrika.
Это любимое место всех.
This was the most favorite place of all residents of Kherson, where everybody would go to relax, to rest.
Кафе,
There was a cinema, there were shops, cafes,
любимый
our
Макдональдс.
favorite McDonald's.
Вот, ну, как видите,
But as you can see, the shopping mall is now destroyed.
уничтожена. Вот здесь была любимая.
This was the favorite place of the local teenagers.
Приезжали на
Every
велосипедах.
single evening, they would gather here. People would come here on their bicycles and have fun.
С семьей, с детьми.
Привет, мама.
Hi, Mom. We're in Berlin. Everything's fine.
Не стреляют.
Thank God nobody's shooting here.
Помню, когда мы только приехали.
I remember when we first got here, we heard the sound of an airplane taking off, and we got really scared, and there were some fireworks, and we were literally trembling. How are you, Mom?
Выживаете вообще.
Ну, у нас как бы сейчас...
The daily routine of every resident in Kherson looks like this. We all wake up early in the morning. We go to the market to buy some groceries, because it all turns into a literal hunt or something like a game or a quest. You go to the market, you don't know what you'll be able to buy. There are always vegetables like carrots, potatoes, beets, but everything is 3 times more expensive. Used to be able to buy potatoes for 11 hryvnia, and now we can only get them for 40 hryvnia.
Вот очередь за свежим хлебом.
There's a line there to buy fresh bread.
25.
Now it costs 25 hryvnia.
То есть, в принципе,
It used to be half that much.
И здесь очередь.
Here's another line.
На рынке я была.
I was standing near one shop. There were queues and 2 Russian soldiers with guns and white armbands.
Повязками на руке.
They were very young, and they were controlling these queues.
Молодые мальчишки.
There are tanks everywhere, marked with the letter Z.
А бабушки.
A bunch of elderly women came up to them and said, "What are you doing here, boys? How old are you?"
Сколько вам лет? Они говорят, там,
They
18.
said, "We're 18."
Сыночек, тебе ж- ты такой молодой.
Guys, they said, "you're so young. You should be partying or dating."
Еще танцевать, за девушками ухаживать, а ты вот здесь.
And the boys just shrugged,
Мальчишки так, ну, плечами пожимают.
and they said they understood.
Понимаем. Ну, откуда вы
They asked them, "Where are you all from?" One of them said he was from Volgograd. Someone else named other towns and cities. I heard in Berdyansk, There's already a new mobile operator.
Хотят ввести или уже ввели.
We've got friends there, so we couldn't communicate with them for several days because it was impossible. They couldn't call us. And if you're in the same situation, please don't panic. Be patient. They will communicate with you when they can. We don't have Ukrainian TV channels anymore. We've already got Russian ones. The internet is also off. We don't have cable television. We have Russian radio. People did go on the streets to protest. They had Ukrainian flags, they sang the anthem, they shouted some slogans. But several days ago, the Russian military officials, or what you might call them, said that those meetings weren't legal. People didn't believe them. They went out to protest, and at the beginning, they were warned over a loudspeaker several times, but they didn't want to stop the protest. And then the Russians started shooting in the air and using smoke bombs. And after that, the local government authorities, the mayor, wrote a post in the social networks. He said, "Dear citizens, your life is the most important thing. So please, don't risk anything now. Don't provoke the Russian soldiers." And that's why everything is quiet now, and there are no protests. For example, when I'm walking outside and I hear the sound of an explosion, I understand that it's far away. Previously, we were all frightened that it was near our houses, but now I understand it's happening somewhere in a suburban area, maybe 20 kilometers away from us. And I think nothing can reach us, so that's why nobody is panicking. Nobody's running to the bomb shelters. There are many people outside. It's Friday, a work day, and everybody's doing their thing. We're still a little bit scared because there is still a possibility that some missile could reach the city here. Here is somebody selling something on the street. Mothers and children are out walking. It's an average spring day. Public transport is functioning. The only time there's a problem with it is when there are air attacks. What, here? This is my home, right here. And over there? Not so long ago, there was a missile that fell. It was just behind that high building. People who weren't in Donetsk in 2014, 2015, or just don't remember it, are really scared. And they don't understand how far the strike was. They don't understand whether a missile has damaged something, but we still continue living our lives. The shops continue working, the market continues working. My relatives, that is my uncle, my cousins, and my aunt, they live in Kyiv. We haven't seen each other since 2018. Before that, we hadn't seen each other for another several years. Of course, we're in contact. We call each other. We chat on social networks. Small talk like, how's it going, and so forth. Moved to the western part of Ukraine to preserve their safety and not to hear all those bombs exploding. And now I'm literally begging you, just go somewhere safe. Please go. We're already used to it. You can never get used to it. Literally never. You're wrong.
Привыкли, правда.
Бои идут.
There's fighting going on out there.
Ой-ой-ой, та-та-та-та-та-та.
Это ужасно.
It's terrible.
Минут 10 назад
10 minutes ago, we heard a siren, and we heard explosions and gunshots outside.
выстрелы, наверное.
Maybe it was the air defense systems.
Мы себя в квартире
We
обустроили.
found the safest place in our flat, and we set it up so there are no windows or glass, just a wardrobe.
Шкаф для кота.
There's our cat litter box.
Вот кинули какие-то
We
пледы.
found some blankets and placed them here.
Вот стены здесь
The
хорошие.
walls here are very thick because it's an old building.
Сейчас покажу.
I'll show you.
Вот такая ширина.
They're very thick.
Достаточно
We
большая.
have 2 walls like this in the place we sleep in, so the rule of 2 walls is obeyed.
Считаю, что здесь мы
I think we're relatively safe here. Are you sitting on the floor?
Да.
Yes.
Вот.
And how long does the siren usually go on? I think normally about half an hour.
Ну да, да.
I don't remember it exactly.
Полчаса точно минимум.
It can go from 20 minutes up to an hour. What's the latest news?
Хорошо, дай
Everything's fine.
сначала.
Let me wish my grandma a happy birthday.
Мы тебя очень...
Happy birthday, Grandma. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really sad that everything has turned out like this.
Это получается первый
It's the
раз.
first time I haven't been able to visit you on your birthday. We really miss you very much. I'm looking at you and I want to cry.
Я
I miss you too. She used to visit us every year at the exact same time. This is the first time she wasn't able to. She had already bought the tickets. She sent the photo to us, and we knew that she would arrive on March 17th. And suddenly, everything was canceled. How many years has Lisa been living in Ukraine? Since 2019. I moved here, and my friends would always ask me what it felt like to move from Moscow to Odessa. And if I was too tired or too lazy to explain, I would just send them a picture of the sea. And everybody understood everything straight away. It's windy today. To be honest, we're really happy it's windy because it means that there are big waves in the sea and no warships will be able to approach. Are the shops working? The food stores are working. The pharmacies are also open because they sell essential items. Some of the cafes started working.
сейчас 5 часов вечера.
It's 5 p.m. now.
Обычно на этом
At this
участке
time,
хожу
there are
на
usually
движение,
many
на
people here,
работу.
going to work or, coming home from work. But as you can see, nothing's happening right now.
На домах
There are Ukrainian flags on every building.
флаги.
In our family, there are people with different political views. So that's why it's really hard for me to cope with the political position of Stas. He watches TV all day, and he embraces the ideas that they're broadcasting. It's really difficult to communicate with him right now. We don't understand each other. They're saying the same things every single day, and people believe them. Even when I tell people, I tell them I was in Odessa, and there were no Nazis. I tell them I spent 2 weeks there this autumn. I was speaking Russian. Everything was fine. There were no Nazis. Even if you were there, it doesn't mean there were no Nazis. You just hadn't met them. I'm not trying to argue with you. Not everybody supports your opinion. I think my opinion is supported by the minority. That's the thing. My grandmother speaks only Russian. And even if my grandfather spoke Ukrainian, my grandmother would always ask, why would she need Ukrainian when everybody was speaking Russian there? Of course, everyone in Ukraine speaks Russian with Ukrainian features and accents. When I go there, I start speaking with the Ukrainian accent myself. But my grandmother doesn't understand Ukrainian. That's why, obviously, she watches Russian TV. Russia Channel 1? I understand that in history there have always been wars, military actions, somewhere there, somewhere far away. But you never thought about it because it was never close to you. It was never close like Ukraine is to us, and it's really hard. For a long time, I talked to my father only in Ukrainian. He calls me every day. And therefore, when he calls, he might not know where I am. Earlier, I felt comfortable talking with him in Ukrainian. While being outside in a shop or somewhere else, it was totally fine for me. But after the events of 2014 happened, I stopped doing that. When I'm in public places now, I usually switch to Russian because I'm afraid someone will hear it. And there might be problems. Russians don't see anything. They live their normal life as if nothing's happened. In the first days of the operation, I couldn't look them in the eyes. While taking my kids from kindergarten or from school, I saw cafes where all the tables were occupied. We've got a lot of cool cafes in this area, and they were full back then. I still don't know what happened to my father's relatives. What's happened to Irina's mother? I hope at least they were evacuated. The problem every Mariupol family has now is that children are asking their parents to evacuate, and the parents don't want to abandon their homes. And when something happens, when those parents lose the house or when one of those parents is not alive anymore, their children have no possibility to help them. This is the sky over Odessa now. My wife and I woke up this morning at 6 a.m. because we heard some explosions. And at first, they were far away. When we heard two of them, we stood up, and after that, we heard some explosions nearer. One of them made the windows in our flat rumble. And of course, we couldn't sleep. Because of that, we were anxious about it. We hid in our flat. And there were many messages in chats that there were a lot of explosions and smoke around the city. Nobody was sending pictures for their own safety, by the way. Sasha, why don't you want to leave? I love this city. I love this country. I want to live here. I want to have my family here. I just can't imagine leaving this country. Theoretically, I could break up with my partner. I could leave the country, but I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I won't abandon my cats because we're all family. We won't flee from Ukraine. The majority are staying because their homes are there. And why would you leave your own home, even if you're in a bad situation? And I totally understand them, because here, in Russia, many of my friends are either willing to leave or leave. I don't want to abandon my home, because my home is filled with so much love. I bought this flat together with my beloved husband. Even the walls help me here. I'm afraid I don't know what's going to happen next. But I want to live here. When someone says that Mariupol no longer exists, at first I was one of those who claimed that even after leaving Ukraine, I'm getting confused because Mariupol is not just the theater or beautiful restored buildings in the city center or parks. First of all, Mariupol is people, the people who decided to stay there. Okay, Seryoza. We'll see each other soon. So stay strong. Remind Ina that we're with you. We support you. Okay, bye. Bye. I'm giving you all a big hug, and I want to remind you that I love you. I really miss you. I miss you, and I'm worried about you.
Цілую.
Okay, hugs and kisses, my dear daughters. Bye-bye, Mom. We love you. Bye. Bye-bye. We want to see our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. I'm not going to die until I see them. I have no other choice. Of course you don't. We'll wait for you. We love you. Of course, we love you too. I'm always waiting for you. We love you. We love you too.